Hey everybody, how's it going? Creal here. In this video, what I wanted to do is share some advice to up-and-coming metal bands, or really anybody out there that is wanting to get involved in their local metal scene. So for those of you guys who don't know me, I've been playing guitar in the Nashville metal scene for over 10 years. Kind of took a hiatus for the last like 4 or 5 years because I became a private school music teacher, and that was an awesome job. That was a fun journey, but I just decided that I liked playing metal too much and I wanted to do YouTube and things like this. So I left that job, and for the last year or so, I've been working on building a couple bands to play in the Nashville metal scene. And so the first part of the video is going to start off talking a lot about what's happening, what's coming up in the metal scene in Nashville, like what kind of shows are going on. And I just wanted to share a couple experiences of some shows that I've been to recently. But this is kind of a continuation on another video that I made called What It's Like to Play a Metal Show in Nashville. So there's a lot of videos out there talking about what it's like to be a country guitar player, or what it's like to be involved in the Nashville country scene. This video is strictly about being involved in the metal scene in Nashville, Tennessee, at least what I've noticed recently, having played a few shows and having played many shows in the last like 10 years or so. So I'll kind of share that perspective. Just keep in mind, this is just my take on this thing. There's other people involved in the scene, obviously, but I figured I would at least share what I've noticed and share some advice on what you can do, or just some preliminary things that I think you should do if you want to be involved in making metal music and playing shows in your local scene. The things that I talk about in this video, you could probably apply to any city in the US or really any city in the world. So this is some pretty universal bits of advice. It's nothing really groundbreaking in my opinion. It's really basic stuff, but I think it's stuff that you should know if you want to get a band off the ground. You want to start playing shows in your local city. You want to start opening for the big tours that maybe be coming to town in your area. Real quick, the idea behind this video came from a longtime viewer of the channel. His name is Jazz Blaster. So thank you, Jazz Blaster, for shooting me a direct message and telling me that this is something that you'd want to see. I've got a lot of other things coming down the pike here on this channel, gear reviews, pedal demos, guitar lessons, things of that nature. But for now, we're going to talk more about playing live music and my experience playing live music in Nashville. So without further ado, let's talk about the Nashville metal scene a little bit. Here we go. The Nashville metal scene, to me, it is something that is on the rise. Okay, there's people from other parts of the US, people from LA, New York, the surrounding areas. They're moving to Nashville. Matt Garska from Animals as Leaders lives here in Nashville. Scott Carstars from Fallujah, okay, lives here. Emil Wursler, the Entheos members live in Nashville. Naveen and Cheney, they both live here. So there's a lot of local metal musicians now that are pretty, like, they're probably mid-level to higher level bands. In Fury, they live here. So lots of cool bands in town. Bands are stopping off in Nashville. Tours, metal tours are stopping off here. They're putting us on the map, whereas in the past, Nashville was usually skipped over and favored places like Atlanta or other areas in the Southeast were typically favored over Nashville. That's something that I've been noticing a lot more of lately. One of the things that I wanted to mention before we get into the nitty-gritty here, you know, I've seen a lot of videos from guitar players talking about, you know, playing downtown, the Nashville cover scene, playing for artists. That's cool. There's a lot of players doing the Tom Bukovac style video where they like play for a little bit and then talk about, you know, what it's like getting a gig downtown on Broadway. I have a lot of friends that do the cover scene, and that's how they make their living, and I'm proud of those guys. But what I wanted to do in this video is share a completely different take on what it's like being a musician in Nashville, someone who makes original music, right? That doesn't play cover music and that is trying to have a career playing artistic music like metal, abrasive, loud, aggressive stuff. So I just wanted to say that as an aside. There's a lot of different ways to make money in this town playing music, and what I've opted to do throughout my music career is work some type of other job that doesn't have anything to do with my craft of playing guitar so that I can focus on making art, okay? And so that, I guess, is the style of musician that I am. There's nothing wrong with either style. This is just what I've chosen to do. The main reason is that I think people have heard Journey songs. They've heard Sweet Child of Mine. All of those famous cover songs, I feel like they've been played enough. What I'd like to do in my lifetime is focus on making something new that people have never heard before. So it doesn't mean I view myself as better than people that play cover music. It's just what I've decided to do with my time on this earth. So I figured I would mention that. Okay, so one of the observations that I came to recently is that there is a ton of metal shows happening in Nashville. So let me just list off everything that's happened in the last couple weeks and what's kind of coming down the pike in terms of metal shows. So for starters, the Chaos and Carnage tour just happened here. A lot of amazing bands. If you haven't caught that tour, I would highly recommend checking it out. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it to that show, but I did make it out to the Knocked Loose Loathe show, which was insane. It was a sold-out show at Marathon Music Works here in Nashville. Knocked Loose, I saw that band a few years back in Nashville when they played an in-store appearance at Grimey's, a tiny little record store, and they did their thing, and now I'm seeing them play at Marathon, you know, a huge music venue in town. I think that room is maybe like 500 cap, 750. It's somewhere in that range. I don't think it's 1,000 cap. But if you've ever seen Premier Guitar, that's where they do a lot of the rig rundowns, and they have one on Knocked Loose. And that show was amazing. One observation I'll make is that it just didn't seem like very many people wanted to mosh at that show. Like people maybe were afraid of getting hurt or something like that. Or, hey, maybe the Nashville metal scene has grown up too much and they don't want to go nuts at a metal show. But from what I could tell, the bands were like kind of frustrated, like trying to pump up the crowd, and like everyone just standing there stone cold, like not getting into the music. So that was just one observation I want to mention at the Knocked Loose show. Shortly after Knocked Loose played Marathon, Periphery came to town and played there as well on their recent tour. Tomorrow, it's May 21st right now. Tomorrow, Kubla Khan is playing at Brooklyn Bowl, which is crazy. They have blown up recently on TikTok. My wife showed me a Kubla Khan video, and I was like, honey, I played shows with that band before, like way back in the day, 10 years ago. When I lived out in central Kansas, we played shows with bands from Texas, like Kubla Khan, and I'm so stoked to see people getting into their music and for them to kind of have a wider reach. Like, it's so exciting to see your friends from years past, like, their careers taking off. This coming Sunday, Dying Fetus is going to be playing at Eastside Bowl. That's May 26th. Dying Fetus put out a new record late last year. It's an amazing record. I feel like the hardcore community is really embracing Dying Fetus right now, and so you see a lot more hardcore kids getting into death metal, which I think is sick. And so if you're in town and looking for something to do this coming Sunday, go check that show out. In a few weeks, we've got Bonnaroo, and I'm not sure what metal bands are playing Bonnaroo, but go ahead and look at the lineup for Bonnaroo. There's destined to be dozens of metal bands as well as weird indie bands that inevitably always play Bonnaroo. So that's a festival coming up. That's June 13th through the 16th. Shortly after that, Baroness is playing the Basement East on June 18th. And then later on in July, we've got the Summer Slaughter Tour coming to town July 17th at Marathon. So that's destined to be a, action-packed day of just tons and tons of bands playing. So I just wanted to throw those out so that you guys can see, like, there's a ton of metal happening in town, and that's not even mentioning the smaller, like, more DIY shows like the ones that I played that are happening here. If you're interested in staying up on the shows that are coming through Nashville, if you're a Nashville resident watching this, I would check out the page Nashville is the Reason. They basically list all of the cool up-and-coming punk, metal, cool indie bands, cool weird bands, like all of the cool stuff is on Nashville is the Reason. If you want to follow that, I open that up every couple days just to see who's coming to town, and that's kind of how I found out about a lot of these shows. Another promoter that's kind of local to the region that's worth following would be Invictus Presents, as well as Legacy Concerts. Those are the two booking agents that booked Proselyte on these last couple shows that we played. We opened for Alluvial, and then we opened for the band Filth on their tour. They have a tour called the Southern Hostility Tour with Life Cycles, who's a Texas kind of thrash metal band, as well as Infurious. They're another kind of deathcore, death metal style band that is on that tour. Another thing that's like very obvious that you can do is just follow your favorite metal bands and just be on the lookout for when they announce tours. So that's what I do. I just follow all my favorite bands on Instagram, and then I look when they do their tour posts, like if they're coming to Nashville. And if it's a band that I really like, I'll put it on my Google Calendar and make sure like I'm ready for that. And then I'll even buy tickets in advance. That's what I do for bands like Meshuggah and Knocked Loose and other huge bands that come to town that I'm really into. Cannibal Corpse. Okay, so let's get into the details of what it's like playing a show in Nashville and how to even get shows in the DIY scene in Nashville. And I'm no expert on this. This is just my opinion, and this is just my take on this thing. But the first thing you want to do if you're in a band in the Nashville area, or really any area that plays heavy music, is just start going to shows. Like, go to as many as you can and start networking with the other bands and the other people that are at these shows. Like, have a good time, come out to the shows, be supportive, buy a t-shirt, just support the thing that you say that you love, right? So that's step one, is just start going to shows. The next thing would be, talk to the other bands. Maybe mention like, hey, I'm in a band too, and we're looking to do some shows. Like, you can always partner up with other bands that are kind of at the same level as you. And if you're lucky, you might even be able to open for a bigger band if you make a friendship or a relationship with some of these other members of these bands. It's just good to show up and be there and see firsthand what's going on at the venues, at the scene that you're a part of. The next thing that I would do is figure out who the promoter is. Like, who is booking these shows? Who is the exact person that is booking these shows? Usually the promoter will be at one of these shows. Sometimes they're not there, but usually if they want to make their money, they will handle the door for you, or for the tour, and then kind of split all the money up and make sure everybody gets paid. Hopefully they're fair and they're a good promoter that has some values. That's always a good thing. But do a little bit of internet research, like follow the local promoters in your area. Like, who is booking these shows? Is it like just a person? Is it a girl or a guy that you need to follow on Facebook that's booking these shows? Or is it like a company that's a little bit more professional, like on Instagram or on Facebook, that has their own like page and they book shows in your area? So those are going to be the people that you're going to pitch your band to. With that being said, make sure that you have really great sounding recordings of your music. Is it out on Spotify? Is it easily accessible? I hope that it is. Record your music to the best of your ability. Invest in the sound of your band. Get the best possible recordings that you can, okay? After you do that, after you release your music with cool artwork, the next thing that you're going to want to do is get some promo photos taken. Like, you want to look cool and look like a band that someone is going to want to put on a show and promote, okay? Once you have those two things, it's a little bit easier to get shows. If you don't have that stuff yet, I would recommend make a recording. Could just be an EP, okay? Then get some cool photos taken, hopefully professional photos. Make an Instagram or a Facebook page for your band and start pitching your band to open some of the shows that are coming to town in the next few months, okay? Talk to these promoters, talk about what style you are. Hopefully over time, you'll develop a relationship with that promoter and they'll trust you. They'll trust that you're going to show up for load-in and put on a great show or play for 30 minutes and blow everybody's minds, and then you'll be added to the next show. Once you get one show, I feel like it's a lot easier to get additional shows. So maybe that's obvious, but I think it's worth mentioning here. Once you've been added to a show, what you'll want to do is promote that as much as possible on social media. And, you don't want to get spammy with it, but you're going to want to space out all of those posts that you make about the upcoming show. You can utilize stories, like maybe twice a week leading up to the show, or, 4 or 5 times a week. You can put in your story the show flyer, just reminding everybody that you're playing. Like what Proselyte did is we posted pictures of us practicing, like with our rigs all set up, showing people that, like, hey, we're getting ready for this show. We're stoked to support these other bands. And funny enough, these other touring bands would repost our posts about us about them coming to Nashville and us supporting their tour as a local band. The key is just to get everyone involved, get everyone in your band to post, okay? And just spread the word, spread the gospel of your music on social media and get people interested in coming to see you play. Okay, the next little piece of advice is pretty obvious. You're just going to want to practice and make sure your band is as tight as humanly possible. I kind of find that this is like the hardest thing about being a metal musician in Nashville, is trying to get other people to show up to practice and to prioritize your band. And in my opinion, you're either in one scene or the other. You're usually not in both, okay? And what I mean by that is you're either doing original music and you're playing in your metal band and you're committed to that, and you probably have a regular day job of some sort, or you're in the cover music scene, okay? Now, there are people that I know that do both, but I would imagine that they're only involved in maybe one additional project aside from their cover music, thing that they're involved in, playing downtown on Broadway a few nights a week. If I can share some of my frustration now, it's that you want to be really clear and upfront with people that you want to work with, and just let them know that, like, hey, this is a metal band. We're not going to be making really any money for a little while. Over time, if we all work really hard at this thing, maybe in a few months or a year, we'll get bigger show offers. We'll start getting paid. We'll sell some merch. It's basically like starting a small business when you're in like a metal band. At least that's my perspective, okay? So with all that being said, once you finally can get 4 or 5 guys or 4 band members to actually practice together, you're going to want to practice a lot, okay? So that when you play your first show, it is undeniably awesome. You just want to get every little kink worked out. So in Proselyte, we have an IEM rig that stands for in-ear monitors, and we run like a click track and 808s, bass drops, some sound effects. We've got all of that stuff happening in our live show. So we practiced with our rig a lot to make sure that we had all the kinks worked out. Even though we did all that, we showed up to our gig at Dark Matter and our click was coming through the house during sound check. So we had to do some last minute troubleshooting. So thank God everything went well at the Dark Matter show, and I feel like our set was awesome. You want to make sure you practice a ton to not only play the music to the best of your ability, you want to make sure that the music really should be the last thing you're thinking about when you're on stage. What you should be thinking about on stage is putting on a great show. So moving around, banging your head, rocking out, just showing people how awesome your music is. I mean, metal music is powerful, okay? It gets people really excited. It connects to a very primitive part of the human brain. So you want to be able to tap into that while you're on stage and basically put your hands and your fingers on autopilot. You know, I know metal is a technical style of music, but I try to practice to the highest level so that it's like second nature. It's so easy to get up and play these songs. In Proselyte, we had played our songs probably 50 times together before we actually went on stage. Now, we practiced maybe 10 times before the show, but we had run the set multiple times. That would be my advice. Now, once your band practices and plays a few shows, you might not have to practice as much, but I would recommend practicing as much as possible so that by the time you get on stage, you can really just have fun and enjoy the experience of making metal music. Okay, so let's talk about the day of the show. So usually what will happen prior to the show is the promoter will email your band, whoever the contact person is in your band. They're going to email you basically like a list of what's going to happen on the day of the show. So load in 4 p.m., doors 6 p.m., X band is up at 7, Y band is up at 7:30, Z band is on at 8. Basically, like just letting you know the list and the order that you're playing in, and hopefully the promoter is really forthright with that information and you don't have to pry for that stuff. Usually it's just all in one email, and then what we do is just screenshot that and send it to the other members of the band so that everybody's informed and knows like what's going to happen the day of the show. On the day of the show, I would recommend requesting off work. Okay, and I was in the past really bad at this kind of thing. Like I was always trying to do too many things at the same time. Like I would, work a full day at my day job, which at the time I was working retail, so I was like walking like 20,000 steps a day. And then I would like get off work, shower really quick, load up my car and drive to the venue for load in and then play a show and basically be out until 11 or midnight. I don't recommend doing that. I would recommend request the day off, okay? Plan ahead, maybe even request the day after the show off so that you can recover. And I know like so many people these days live close to the edge and like that's not a thing. And in fact, when I was struggling in my 20s playing shows and also having a job, it was really hard for me to take off work because I needed the money. I would recommend trying to take the day off so that you're well rested, you have time to like think, okay, and just relax and enjoy the first part of the day. Make some breakfast, just get mentally prepared for what you're about to do on stage, okay? And I know everybody out there can't do that, but that's just my recommendation. Take off work for at least like 2 days around your show, even if it's a local show. If you're playing out of town, like a few hours away, definitely take off work the day of the show and the day after so that you can, perform well and then get back to your day job in a reasonable way, I would think. And I guess the thought is on that, it's like if you want to make it in the music industry, you got to prioritize it. If you've got one foot in the real world and one foot in the music world, I just don't know how far you're going to get in music. You have to be committed to this thing. You're going to have to sacrifice, tap into whatever nepotism that you can, live at your parents' house if you have to. If you're younger watching this video, find a way to make it work. Quit buying gear. Just buy exactly what you need to play shows. And that's going to basically put your music career first, okay? Avoid car payments. Avoid all of these money type things that are going to prevent you from being able to go on tour and to really dive fully into this music scene. That's just my take on that, having been there and done that, and now kind of re-entering the metal scene at age 36. We'll see how it goes, guys. Like, I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot now where I can really invest in the bands that I'm a part of, really just make music, record, write music, play shows, connect with other musicians in the scene, and hopefully in the next few months or year, I can get out on the road and play for some people in some other areas. Okay, so the next little piece of advice is to stay for the whole show. If you're a local metal band or member of a metal band, stay for the entire show. If everybody was there to watch you play, it's probably a good idea that you should stay until the end and watch every band. Our show at Dark Matter had 6 bands on the show. I think it was 3 locals and than the tour package, which was also 3 bands. To me, this is like really crucial. If you want to be an established member of the metal music scene in your area, you got to go to as many shows as you can, and you should probably stay for the entire show, especially if you play. And I think it's worth it, man. Watch the touring bands, like compare the local bands to the touring bands, and then figure out why they're on tour and you're not on tour. What are some things that you need to do? Do you need a certain piece of equipment? Do you need to run backing tracks of some sort? Do you need to run a click track? What are like the missing components in your band that these touring bands have? Maybe you need to write better music, you know, like that's something that comes to mind for me. It's like our songs are sick, but let's make them even better. Like let's get to the next level with this thing. And lately that's all I think about is just how do I get to the next level, whether it be YouTube, the music that I'm involved in, how I look on stage, how I sound, my guitar playing, all of that stuff has to increase so that I can be the best musician and guitar player that I can be. Another reason why you should stay till the end is you never know who's going to be at these shows. You could meet another band member that is in a much more successful band that's there to just hang out, and you can easily approach them and talk to them, and hey, you might end up working with them in the future. And I just think it's really good to, you know, talk to the touring bands, talk to the other local bands, be outgoing, okay? It's never good to be introverted at these shows, in my opinion, okay? Networking is huge, and it's easy to network with other people that do the same thing that you do. Yeah, you might be in a different metal band. You might even play a different style of metal that doesn't really vibe with the other band, but talk to them anyway. Get to know them. I think the easiest thing to do is just to ask questions. Musicians love talking about themselves. So just ask people questions, man. As many questions as you can come up with. Hopefully they ask you questions about you and the music that you play and what you do as a human. It's always awesome to take the other side of the coin and just ask people questions about themselves. Like, what part of town do you live in? Like, what have you been listening to lately? What kind of kick drum pedals do you use? Like, I don't know, like just anything that is interesting to you, okay? And also just pay attention to what other people in the scene are doing, because you might end up being able to approach them and have a conversation with them that could lead to the next thing for you. It's all about putting your best foot forward, using your resources, talking to the people around you, and just trying to put your best foot forward. If this is what you want to do with your life, get over yourself and talk to some other people, and you'd be surprised how easy it is to talk to people. And yeah, just talk about anything, man. Food is a good topic. TV shows, just talk about anything that might be relevant to that person, and once again, ask them questions. All right, guys, so this concludes my little advice video on, you know, how to get started in the metal scene in your area. Hopefully the things that I talked about in this video helped you a little bit. It's just my take on it, so I'm sure there's some other things out there. Maybe if I missed something, leave something in the comment section below. If you aren't a subscriber to this channel, please subscribe. Please like this video and check out what else I have going on this channel. There's a ton of guitar playthrough videos, gear reviews, gear demos, guitar lessons, things like that. I'm looking to grow this channel, so please, if this helped you, like the video, leave a comment below, engage with me a little bit, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day wherever you're at.